We are Smooth Jazz Notes here interviewing Lao Tizer at Yoshi's in San Francisco. So let's start with the first question. How did you get your name?
Oh, well, actually, Hippies for Parents would be an easy explanation. They happened to meet here in the Bay Area back in the days, you know, early 70s. But my parents, in all honesty, were into a lot of Eastern philosophy, still are, you know. So I was raised very alternatively. I grew up in Boulder, Colorado. But the name sake is Lao Tzu, the Taoist philosopher. So if you've heard of Taoism or the Tao Te Ching, he's the guy who wrote that. So kind of a tall order to live up to, but I'm doing my best.
And do you have brothers and sisters?
I do. I'm the youngest of four that are my blood, and then I have some stepsisters and the like. So. And
they all have creative names.
All my siblings do, yeah. My oldest sister's Che, my brother's Ari, my sister's Nadja, and me. So yeah.
So at the age of 31, you have released 6 studio albums and a recent live CD. Mm-hmm. Please tell us about your new CD, Tizer Live.
Right. Easy title. We dropped a Lao too. Tizer Live is kind of a snapshot of what the band is now, what it has evolved to. For a long time it was called Lao Tizer or Lao Tizer Band, and although I'm still the leader, it's very much a group. It's a group show, as you'll see from the show. I mean, it really features everybody, and I've written most of the music, and so it's my baby, but everybody, I really, like to keep it open to everybody's influences and input, and obviously the lineup is a stellar group of people, so it's just great to be able to work with them. So Tizer Live is a snapshot of what the band has evolved into today, which is like really a world fusion jazz with even a hint of rock. Project, and it's continues to evolve.
So at this point, Tizer Live is available on your website?
It's on my website, and you can find it on all the digital sites, iTunes, all that stuff. And physical distribution these days is in such a strange place. So basically digital or through my website, and at some point maybe we'll do a larger release of physical copies, but we're easy to find. LaoTizer.com.
So we understand you became interested in piano at the age of 5 when a piano was purchased for your sister, and you tinkered with it until you had formal lessons at the age of 9. Do you think it helped or hindered you to wait for the formal lessons?
Oh, that's a good question. I mean, in hindsight, I certainly wouldn't have minded starting earlier. I think that there's nothing that, that would only have been a benefit. But your journey is what it is. So, I mean, I've been playing a long time now, 22 or 23 years. But I wouldn't have minded starting when I was 5. I mean, the two main, most influential teachers that I studied with in my younger years both started at like 3. So, you certainly can. And when I meet people who are considering giving their kids lessons, I always tell them, there's no reason to wait. 3, 4 years old, kids are ready. So, I hope it hasn't hindered me.
Well, do you think that it has made your music more improvisational because you did have a period, or possibly?
Maybe a little, because actually when I first started piano, what happened was, like you said, my parents got a piano for my sister when I was 5, and I just used to bang around on it. I mean, I technically played some sort of piano, during those few years, but everything I was doing was completely my own creation. I knew like the most simple thing, which was a 5th, and I just would play around with that. So I think that was always my gift, being creative, doing my own thing, and my parents always nurtured that and encouraged that from day one, so I appreciate that.
How long did your formal lessons last?
I would say probably about 9 years of formal lessons, all told. I mean, I was pretty consistent from when I was 9 until about 15, and then I took a couple years off, and then I studied with a well-known teacher in LA for a couple years after I moved, after high school, named Terry Trotter. And the studying still continues, working with these musicians I get, I'm fortunate enough to work with, and whatever. I've learned so much kind of on the job, really. But yeah, I would say 8, 9 years of formal lessons.
Well, your first CD was released in 1993 when you were just 14 years old.
Yeah.
Please tell us how this came about.
Well, when I was a kid, like probably around like 11 or 12, I used to go to the piano store, and they had keyboards, and I was they're so cool. All these sounds, all these cool things to mess around with, and I finally talked my parents into getting me one. But the deal was, I had to pay them back a little more than half the money, and to get a keyboard and an amp and a stand and a case and whatever, it was like $2,700 or something like that. And so to start paying them back, I started performing on the Pearl Street Mall in my hometown of Boulder, Colorado. And people, after like a month or two, asked me to make a CD. So I made my first CD at home to a DAT machine. And I was off and running. It kind of fell into my lap. I've always felt that way. It just, I guess when things are meant to be.
Well, your first few CDs were classically influenced, and very classically influenced. Mm-hmm. You were obviously trained.
More New Age classical for sure, yeah.
Then in 1997, you moved from your hometown of Boulder, Colorado to LA. What precipitated that move?
In the end of 1996, I met my first manager. I was playing in Denver and he was in town for a convention. And I met him there. It was like September or something like that, and he was starting up a publishing company, and he flew me out to LA a couple times to visit, and then it kind of came up like maybe I should consider moving, so I did. I up and moved. I was 18, didn't know anybody but him and his family, and just uprooted, and I've been there ever since. Surprising.
So you didn't release your next CD, your fourth, Golden Soul, until 2001.
Right.
What did you do between 97 and those 4 years?
You're probably going to touch on this coming up with Kieli, right? But I met him the summer of 97. We did this demo. And then for several years after that, we were shopping. We had a couple times that we were very close to record deals. I was playing a lot of shows. It was a matter of finding the right business situation to produce that CD, and it finally came along. We actually recorded it in 2000, so there was a few year gap, yeah.
And how did you meet him?
I met Kieli through another producer who he used to do, I think who had hooked him up with the gig with Guiding Light. Kieli had scored for Guiding Light for over a decade. And he had put us in touch, and then my manager flew me out to New York, and he came along as well, and we got in the studio for 3 days and just kind of hit it off, and he's been a real mentor figure to me ever since. I mean, although now we're more and more peers working together so much and all that. So
well, yeah, how is that? He actually was your mentor. Mm-hmm. Now he's a part of your band. You're actually the band leader.
Yeah, wow. I don't know. It would be a good question for him. I mean, it's got to be, maybe someday I'll be in that situation where I get to watch someone grow up in music and keep pursuing, keep growing, and keep evolving as an artist and a band leader and whatever. It's amazing. I mean, it's great to work with him. He's a great friend, a great musician, as is everybody in the band. And to share the stage and play some of his material and whatever, it's great.
Well, on Golden Soul, you went from being a solo performer
mm-hmm.
to playing in an ensemble.
Right.
And was that a difficult adjustment?
No, actually, what happened was when I did that first demo with Kieli, which was just 3 songs in summer of 97, I think it was, we did the first one of those songs to some programmed drums and bass, and he played guitar, and it was the first time I'd ever heard my music with an ensemble. And that really was what opened up the whole horizon to start the band, which I ended up doing in 1998, and that was a slow process until Golden Soul came about. But I wrote a lot in those years. I mean, I was really into composing and pushing my boundaries and fascinated by, that's when I discovered fusion and more evolved forms of, composition and instrumental music,